Hello? Oh, hello. Hi, everyone. I'm Sharon. Oh my goodness, it's 7:25 after. Hello. It's nice to meet you all. I know. Hi. It's 7:30 at night. I know. It's the end of a day. Thank you. I'll try and keep it as quick as possible, but I didn't know when to pick a time because you all are so busy during the day.
Oh, it's fine. Thank you.
You're welcome. So now I'm going to have to try and figure out from your names, see if I can do. Let's see. Stephanie, are you?
Wiser.
You're Weiser Park. Okay, so you're Weiser Park. And let's see. It's D. Lucan, but I know you're up in Angola. What's your first name? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry, it's Diane, and I'm in Centerville.
Oh, you're Ayersville. Okay.
Centerville.
Centerville. Oh, that's right. You're down south. I was putting you way up.
No, I'm east, central.
That's east. Okay. Ayersville, that's Ohio. Right. We have students everywhere this semester. So thank you so very much. So, okay. And let's see. Mrs. Is it Donkey? Is that how you say it? Or Amanda?
It's Danky, sorry.
That's okay. All right. And where are you from? And I'm looking
Fort
at
Wayne.
Where was that?
Fort Wayne.
Fort Wayne. And what school are you with? I forget.
Emmaus Lutheran.
Emmaus Lutheran. Okay, that's right. We have, like I said, students everywhere. So it's kind of good. So good. I'm just so, again, so thankful that you all are popping on here. We're going to start right at 7:30, whether people here or not. And then we'll catch people up as they come. But my goal is, since it is so late and your morning starts so early, we'll just try. I want to get to know all of you and say hello, but we'll probably be a little shorter on introductions and developing community because we're just sort of information. And I also want to give you just sort of a face of, like, when you ask questions and things like that. This is sort of the face, and I want people to feel comfortable asking questions and reaching out. We just appreciate this so much. So thank you. Amanda, is that your classroom? You're still in your classroom?
We had school board meeting tonight, so and I had to go to it. So yes, I'm in my classroom.
Wow.
It's just easier to stay here than try to drive home.
I understand that. I've been in those situations. So absolutely.
Will you be telling us the names of our people that we'll be getting, or
yes? Yes, okay. Great question. I just sent an email with a list that has everyone, because I thought, well, I could send everyone an individual email, so I hope you don't mind, but I just sent the master list out and pick from there. But I think, Amanda, you have Sejin, so do you know?
Oh,
Sejin?
perfect. Yes. Okay,
Yes.
well, thanks.
So good to meet all of you. As I've said, at 7:30 we'll start promptly, and then we'll move quickly because it is late at night. And so I'll reiterate how much appreciate working with all of you and getting to know you as well. So looking forward to that. So we have probably about, I always, when I Zoom my students, I always say this is the time when people need to come with their good elementary jokes. You know, you have to have a stockpile of those good jokes for those in between times when you're chatting with kids. I feel like now I should have a good second grade joke here for all of you, but it's late and I don't think I have any in my brain. But again, it's 7:30, so I'm going to start, and I'll start by, I guess I'm going to screen share, and we will do that, and then I'll introduce myself and one of the other faculty members who's joined us already. So let me screen share. I always have to talk out loud to myself. I have to screen share. I do that by, okay. So are you all seeing my screen? Okay. And then I will make this full screen so it looks lovelier. Oh, I'll even start a slideshow from the beginning. There we go. I even did fancy university. So I'm Sharon Parnan, and I am the course instructor for only the field aspect of this course. And just before I went to sharing my screen, Dr. Perkins Coppola was also on. So Dr. Perkins Coppola, if you want to say hello, and then I have more time for you to introduce yourself later on in the slideshow. But I wanted to let you know who the faculty were in this meeting tonight. Did I not? Matthew, do I not hearing you? Matthew, did you want to say anything? No? Okay, Matthew, I can't hear you. Ah.
How about now?
Oh, wonderful. Thank
Okay,
you.
sorry, I had a bad connection in my cable. Sorry about that.
No problems.
Yeah, good evening to everybody. Sorry to slow up the meeting. Good to see some familiar faces on here and some other teachers that look forward to getting to know this semester. So thank you.
Great. Okay, well, I just want to let people know that we are recording this as well. So you can reference it, but if some people don't want their videos on, I did want people to be aware we will be recording. So with that, I'm going to just dive in. And so the course, let me give you a little bit of a context for how things are structured, what we call our block 3. So the students that you will be having this semester are 1 semester away from student teaching. So next semester, so fall of 2022, your student will be student teaching. So this semester, the semester prior to student teaching, they are taking 4 content methods courses. So language arts methods 2, social studies methods, science methods, and math methods. And so all of those methods courses use the 1 field experience for course assignments and developing conversation within their methods courses. I am the instructor that's sort of coordinating and the go-to person for field related situations, things that pop up. So I'm sort of that person to call for general field kinds of things, but then content professors, of course, are naturally go-to people for any questions regarding specific things as it relates to their particular area. So that's just sort of the overview. And the whole goal of this semester is to move students from understanding themselves as student to moving into that role of beginning teacher. Because as we all know, as a student teacher, you really are a teacher. And when I have taught in this block as a content professor, and one of the things that I really iterated to students was that you start as a student thinking of yourself as a student, and that you have to end the semester by thinking of yourself in role of teacher. And so that's a real transformative process for many students. And hopefully you'll begin to see some of that as that happens as they're working with you over this semester. So I just wanted you to sort of have that big picture about how things fit together and where we're going and our big goal for our students this semester with you. So a little bit more nuts and bolts. So the field structure, the schedule, your PFW student will be with you 2 full school days each week, starting Tuesday, February the 2nd, which is in about 2 weeks from today. They will be there all day Tuesday, all day Wednesday. And the rationale behind this, and perhaps that helps to see, is that what we want to do is we want students to understand what the instruction happens on Tuesday and how what happens Tuesday informs what you do on Wednesday. Because a lot of times we were seeing students were not making that connection. They would just pop in for one day and not understand the flow of how one day impacts the next day. So when they got to student teaching, that was sort of a reality check for them. So we're trying to scaffold students into their student teaching experience. So even if the in-between chatter that you have with the students could help them begin to see some of your instructional decisions, like, oh, well, whatever it happens to be in your course, if you're talking about life cycles and they clearly didn't figure out life cycles, then how do you adjust your instruction for tomorrow? Or what happens when students, what I'm talking about. But that's sort of the big idea for having the 2 days back to back each week. So the student needs to arrange with you the time for them to arrive and the time for them to leave. We do ask that they are there prior to students coming to your classroom, and they stay a little bit after students have left. So again, understanding the role of teacher and that your work doesn't start when students arrive and your work doesn't stop when they leave, right? Lots of things are happening before and after, but we also respect that sometimes you might need some quiet time to do your work. And so to decide and negotiate with that student when you want them to arrive. But they can help you in that the pre and after of the day in terms of your work, in terms of studying for the next day. Your PFW students only know their school location. After tonight's meeting, I will share your contact information with your student. So you should begin to expect probably late afternoon tomorrow or Thursday, at the end of this week, you should expect a contact from your student through email to begin to set up all of the particulars of getting started on Tuesday, February the 2nd. I also want to step back just a little bit here to talk about, we have 2 models going on, and depending on your student, and some of you, depending on which student you have, depending what model your student in may impact how you think, just gives you perspective. So we have 2 models. The block 3 model is more of a traditional field placement model, and the continuity model are, some of you are having your student teacher this semester. So the student teacher that you're going to have fall semester, fall 22, is the student that you are currently going to have placed in your classroom this semester. So essentially you're having a full sort of academic year, even though it's split between the summer, of being with your student. About 40% of our students this semester are in that continuity model. So about 40% of you do have your student teacher. So this is again an opportunity to lay the foundation, to develop those relationships. So as you move forward into planning for the fall, that you can have those relationships with your student teacher, and that planning for fall semester can be facilitated through the end of the school year and over the summer as you do that kind of planning. If you have a traditional block 3, that's a traditional field, meaning that they don't have you for a student teacher as a cooperating teacher for student teaching in the fall. There are some students who are still looking, and we have requests out to various school districts, and even maybe the school district where we've placed them with. So you're welcome to have conversations with those students in your classroom about their plans, hopes for student teaching. If you are interested in having the student who is in a traditional model as your student teacher in the fall, please reach out to me, and I will connect you with our field placement coordinator, Natalie Buer, who has probably already sent a request to your school district looking for a student teacher for that student. Just so you know, PFW spring break is the week of March 7th. And so during that week, we give students a choice. Some students want to keep going into their field experience, and some students really do want to take that time away. And we really support students in either aspect of that, but generally most of your students probably will not be in field that week. But occasionally we have a student who really just wants to keep going because they just are enjoying and just absorbing everything what it means to be moving into that role of teacher. So it just kind of depends on the student. But I did want you to know our spring break is the week of March 7th. Just some nuts and bolts here. So how I'll communicate with you is that starting the week of January 31st. So on that Wednesday of that week, which is the 2nd of February, maybe I misspoke. Students are probably starting on Tuesday of that week. I think that's the 1st, so I may have made a mistake. So anyway, February 1st, first day, second day is February 2nd. You'll receive, I'm going to set up an automatic send for an email to come to your email box on Wednesday at 3:30, so that while it's still fresh in your mind, you'll have this quick survey. I think there's 2, maybe 3 questions. One would be like, did your student show up for field this week? Yes or no. And the second one is, how is it going? And you can do great. We weren't in school because of XYZ. And the last one, I think I have a text box for other. And if you want to say things like, please call me, or awesome, student did XYZ today, so it's just a way of weekly communication with us. But mostly we're, again, so they'll come on Wednesday after they will have been in with you for 2 days. We do have 2 assessments that we'd like for you to be a part of. One is a midterm, which is formative. I will send that link out the week of March 7th for you. It is comes as a sort of one of those surveys where you just do a lot of clicking yes, no, and some comment boxes about the student. And that information is shared with the student. And this is, again, about helping prepare the students to give them the kind of feedback that they need in preparation for student teaching. We have a final evaluation, which will come out the week of April 25th. Again, it will be similar to that midterm evaluation, but again, and then we use the information from that final summative evaluation in terms of if students struggling, then that factors into our conversation, what we need to do to support that student to be successful into student teaching. And again, I'm always glad to have one-on-one conversations with you if you are concerned about filling out that form. Again, any of the content faculty as well are open to having those conversations with you, particularly if they're struggling in the content area. In fact, like if they don't, they did something, they created a science or an engineering lesson that wasn't safe. So clearly that is something where Dr. Perkins Coppola would need to be involved in those kinds of conversations. But if it's just sort of general teacher pedagogy, I am sort of that go-to person. So because we are doing something, we're trying to place students in the communities where they live for this particular field experience. We have students in Angola, we have students down by Richmond, and students in Ohio. So because of that, for us as faculty to visit every student every week or even every other week becomes monumental. So we're really relying on your feedback and conversation with us, but we're also, some of the faculty are going to ask their students to record their lessons in your classroom, and we use a format called GoReact. I sent that out in the email that just came to you. And that is a form that gives permission for students to record in your classroom. And if you could take a look at that form and complete that, because both you and the student and the principal need to sign that form around the understanding of confidentiality and the use of this form and the use of the recording needs to be signed by all 3 people. And if you could take a look at that and see if that would work for your school district, for your principal, that would be very helpful. And again, if you have questions about that, please let me know. And then the PFW student will take the signed copy and they'll return it to me. And then what should the students do? Just be engaged in the work. of teacher. Remember, so the goal of this field experience is to move them towards we're scaffolding them into student teaching to be ready for student teaching. So it can be all of the above, everything that you do. And again, please use your discernment. Every student's on a different path of readiness. So some are going to be ready to jump in, go up to eyeballs, and some are still moving into this idea of what it means to be teacher. And so as you could support them in that, and then sort of help scaffold them in as you begin to talk to them, and you can see where their skill level is at. But teach lessons, support you, help as like you would have a classroom aide, attend grade level meetings, do a little copying, not much, but you're just the work of what you do. You know, picking up the chairs at the end of the day. You know, it's just all of those things. But and remembering to sort of invite them into the community of your school as well. And I know that's really broad and open, but that's really what we want. The end goal is to be ready for student teaching. Also too, just sort of be mindful. These are just little details about helping the student transition into your classroom. But clearly right now with COVID, so what we tell the students is that they need to follow the COVID protocols that your school and your school district are asking everyone to use. So that is what they will use as well. We have PFW things that they know about, but they have to follow what is in your district. So please share with them that. We don't know everyone's protocols at the moment, and they do, as we know with COVID, everything shifts slightly at the last minute anyway. So share with them your information. Remember, they'll need logistical information like where to park, where to sign in, what door is good to come into. So when you and your student email over this next week and a half, share that kind of information for them. Also at some point, and it could be the morning when they arrive Tuesday, 2 weeks from today, share with them some of how you expect your students to conduct themselves in your classroom, how you work with students in your classroom, how you expect the PFW student, because if you can remember back to your days of field experiences and/or student teaching, it's always a little bit discomfortable. You're walking into someone else's classroom, wanting to be respectful of the classroom teacher, but also wanting to be involved and engaged. So that's always something that's helpful if you can just share with the students a little bit to help bring them into your classroom community. If you want the students to do a little introductory about themselves, clearly in your email exchange between now and when they come, you're welcome to ask them to do something like that. Hey, do a 5-minute introduction of yourselves, just so that they're prepared when they can come in. And then how you want to communicate: email, text, phone, etc. One thing which I know, which is just really challenging these days, is the role of needing adults in leadership spots in the classroom, meaning when you have no substitute teachers and no teachers in the school, and then you see this PFW student standing over here. We have to say this, that they don't, because they are not employed by your school district, that they cannot be left alone for more than like sort of 5-ish minutes in a classroom, that there needs to be someone who is legally responsible from your school district. So as tempting as it will be, that is currently how things are set up. So if you could be respectful of that, I know students are going to want to help as much as they can. We were just talking about that with our student teachers. So we have a system set up for student teachers at the end of their student teaching to be able to substitute for the school district where they're at. But for our field experience students, that is not the situation. So I did want to share that with you, because I know it's really tough now, and we're continuing to work on that. And again, open to any ideas, the suggestions, and collaboration around those ideas. Okay, I know I'm trying to talk fast, but not too fast. we're getting here. So so that was my transition into thinking about, so what are the courses and the course assignments that the different content instructors will have. Tonight we had, so Kathy Hernay Dove was not well, so I'm going to speak on her behalf. So she shared a little bit. She is a retired educator who works for us, who is a faculty member. And as you can see, she has taught in elementary for many years, and she's been, her area of expertise and passion is around writing. She's been teaching this course for 5 years for our in the program. She shared with me that she's expecting students to teach 2 lessons in the field, a reading lesson and a writing lesson. One lesson needs to be whole group, and the other lesson can be a small group, such as like a guided reading lesson. The student is to work with you to determine what makes sense for where your curriculum is at, what is happening in your classroom. So clearly these are experiences to be done with you and what is happening in your particular class. So this shouldn't be outside, like I've got to do these things, but rather, so they should be talking with you. I don't know specific due dates, and but you can talk with your PFW student, and you can always reach out to Kathy for if you have more questions. Kathy may come and visit your classroom when the PFW student teaches one of their lessons. So those are the big things. So two lessons for her class that need to be taught. For mathematics, again, the instructor for that course has a day job, so she teaches during the day, and had a parent meeting called for tonight. So that is where she is at the moment. But Karen has taught for 4th and 5th grade for many years at Southwest Allen Schools. This year she is starting something new. She's the middle school math teacher for Canterbury Middle School here in Fort Wayne. And so that is what she does during the day, but she teaches for us in the evenings. And for her course, there is no there's no math lesson that needs to be taught in the class, in your classroom. They're doing lots of teaching in the course to each other, but they do have a final project that where they're going to need access to student work. Students' names will be removed from it, but they are going to do a project of deep analysis and thinking about what their students what students' work show, and then how does that inform instruction for successive lessons. And now I'm going to mute myself, and I'm going to let Dr. Perkins Coppola talk about his course.
All right, well, thank you. And hope that you can hear me and see me all right. So in the science methods course, we are going to be doing some micro teaching during the day. The one thing that I've been doing successfully with the students for the last 7 years or so, those of you who have been around are familiar with the engineering mini unit project that I asked them to do. Our students put together this lesson plan unit and submit it to me, and then I go through it to check for things like safety and feasibility and cost and those sorts of things. And then I ask that they implement that during 2 consecutive days. It can be potentially one Wednesday and then a Wednesday the next week. That sometimes happens. There have been occasions when that's been done before lunch and then after lunch. But one of the reasons that over the times I've required that separation is that otherwise I find that they just tend to skip through the actual planning part of it and jump right into the building, because our students, they tend to really enjoy K-5 students really enjoy the building part of it, but helping them get a sense of the planning part of it is a little bit tougher. at times, because again, when they see materials, they want to build. So this is a great opportunity for PFW students to learn a bit about materials management and develop some of those time management skills as well. Typically, engineering to be effective as a teaching instruction, they need to have at least 40 minutes to execute this. Ideally, a good, strong engineering unit with lots of science and writing, reading, mathematics, and even elements from art and potentially music integrated into it. A really strong engineering unit would take about 1 to 2 weeks of course instruction. And of course, they don't have the time to do that within your space. So I'm asking them to kind of do this taste, this mini unit, in which they're really as much introducing the idea of the engineering design process as much as they are actually engaging in solving the problem and refining that prototype and so forth. So day one, if you're familiar with engineering, is elementary's 5-stage engineering design process. Day one is the Ask, Imagine, Plan, which aligns to the engineering standards. Typically three, engineering, they're banded. There's the kindergarten 2 through 2nd grade standards, and then there's the 3rd through 5th grade standards. Typically they're engaged in 1 and sometimes 2 out of that set of 3 that are in the engineering standards. And then day 2, when they're doing the creating, testing, and improving of the prototype, that is, we've lost an O1 prototype. That's okay. Not sure if that was me or you, Sharon. Doesn't really matter. But yeah, so they're engaged in practices 2 and 3 from the engineering standards. This is a team built kind of thing. I realize that kindergarten and 1st grade students typically aren't working in teams. Sometimes that ends up being pairs. Sometimes that ends up even being something that's done in station groups and rotating through. But it's a time for our students to work with your students on helping them to develop those team working skills, which is one of the things I love about engineering design. The other thing that's something that I negotiate with the students, and they should be negotiating with you. Of course, this being your classroom, you have plenty of say on what they choose as an engineering design problem to solve. But I really am looking for them to do problems that are authentic and situated. So in other words, these are projects that by authentic, I'm referring to this being the kind of situation where they're solving a problem that is a real problem and not just kind of pretend solving it. For example, I hate to use examples because sometimes things get suggested that, here's an example that I'll share. For the fall term, we'll see a lot of things with boats relating to the Mayflower. And obviously students can't build a Mayflower scale sailboat. So that's not necessarily what I'm referring to by authentic, but they can build a scaled model of sorts. Or if they're going to do a boat, maybe if they're integrating this into a social studies unit where they're talking about the Mayflower, at least it can be a sailboat, which was one of the big features of the Mayflower and so forth. So that's kind of what I mean by being authentic. Situated, I really strongly encourage them to find something that is situated in the problems that kindergarten through 5th grade students might experience, things that we would experience in our everyday lives around us. So if we're building a bridge and we're building a model of a bridge so that it's authentic, then we might situate that bridge for a purpose in our community. Maybe a bridge across a creek on the school grounds or something of that nature. So that's what I'm talking about with authentic and situated. So I've realized that it sounds odd that they're doing engineering in the science methods course, and that I'm not really having them teach much of the science and not emphasizing the science. But again, considering the time frame, and I realize I'm asking a lot of time in asking for the 40 to 60 minutes in 2 different sessions of that. And so for that reason, if there's a way their engineering project can integrate into the science you're already doing in your classroom, that's great. But that's one of those concessions that I've had to make over the years, is that perhaps they're not necessarily showing how the science is integrated into that. I do oftentimes see, as they're defining the problem, that they'll integrate more often stories that they've been reading as part of your class. And so I encourage them to go out to look at literature and make some potential solutions there to things that they see in a book that they've been reading in that grade level. The critical thinking side of it is something that I'll be talking with them a lot, but that's one of the other things that is a huge part of this integration. As they're doing the design, the goal is to help the students in your classes to make design choices based on properties of the materials that they're given. They're not following step-by-step procedures in this. They're using what they know about these materials and what they know about how to solve this problem to come up with their best shot. And then there's a lot of critical thinking that then happens on the second day in what I call the failure analysis. And the failure analysis, failure is a huge word that means something very different in engineering than it does often in education. Failure really is what engineers are aiming for, is how can I push this design to the point where it fails so that I can know exactly how much I can do with this prototype. If I don't know how hard I can push it, how much I can test that, then it becomes, that ambiguity can lead to real problems when somebody does in the real world test something and it fails. So failure analysis is about looking at the tests that they've just done and thinking about what really went well in how my design met the criteria for this problem, and what are the things that I might change. And then thinking back to the properties of the materials that I'm working with and making some decisions about that. And if you're a teacher in grades 3 through 5, and then you're probably familiar that not only can it be properties of materials, but at least in the upper grades, this is a situation where they can start thinking about cost analysis as well, in terms of pricing out the materials and even creating a little budget for that, and then trying to solve the problem for as small a cost as possible. So that's the engineering mini unit, and I'll gladly take some questions on that, I think, toward the end of the presentation if you have those, or you can send me an email on that as well. So thank you, Sharon. Back to you.
Thanks. Hang in here, guys. We're just about done, and I appreciate Matthew's sort of sharing about that. I forgot to say my background is in science education, and so I have a real passion for this area too. Social studies, Joe Ollinger was unable to be here this evening, but he wanted me to share with you that he has 2 things for social studies. One is that he asks that our students, PFW students, create a survey to find out an inventory of your students' interests. And then he wants 1 social studies lessons to be taught. This lesson can be somewhat flexible in your curriculum, so it can be integrated with language arts or something else that you are working on. The student can create this lesson sort of more independently, or he does encourage collaboration with you and himself, or all 3 of you as a collaborative unit, thinking about how to do social studies in a very full curriculum. And he's clearly aware of what that means what does it mean to be teaching social studies? I said science. I know Matthew and I have talked about some of the challenges of making sure there's time to do science and social studies in the day-to-day curriculum. So Joe is very cognizant of that as well, and wishes to partner and work with you and the student, thinking about what that lesson looks like. He would like for his students to integrate ideas that they're talking about in his course into their lesson, and to use the information from the survey to inform the lesson as they are creating that. And that is the end. I know we've sort of been moving quickly here. I've been sort of watching the time here. We're 8:06 over a little bit. I'm going to stop. If you have questions or comments, we'll take those now. And then afterwards, if Kathy Kidder is here, Beth Mallory, or Vincent Serrani, I'll turn off the video, and then I have a couple of things that I'd like to share with you in particular. But other than that, I'll stop talking. And questions? People pretty good? All right. I like that. All right. If you are good, I'm going to let you go, because clearly tomorrow morning will happen faster than anyone wants it to. So thank you so very much for taking your time. And I know on the behalf of all the faculty who teach in this with this cluster of classes and myself, we thank you so much, because we cannot prepare these new educators without collaboration and partnership with you. So thank you again so very much. And with that, I'm going to turn off the video and stop screen sharing and stop share screen. And let me get the video turned off. Let me see, how do I do that again? Oh, stop video. Oh, stop recording.